How does JoJo's keep getting better? Seriously, whatever Araki is smoking, I need some of that. I have just finished my watch through for part 5, and honestly, this might be my new favorite. I see why so many JoJo fanatics praise Golden Wind to the heavens and beyond. I went into this series expecting the worst, and here I am eating my own words. This part takes everything that worked before, sharpens it, and tells one of the tightest, most emotionally brutal stories JoJo has pulled off. And yeah, I did not expect to be saying that. Right off the bat, I want to give a shout out to David Production. Whilst they've done an amazing job with the series thus far, this is the part where they truly went above and beyond. From the very first episode, it's clear this part received extra care. The art style shifts once again, and honestly, this is the best JoJo's has ever looked. The level of detail on the characters and the Italian scenery adds so much personality. I mean, every shot looked beautiful. The slimmer character designs, in my opinion, looks far better than the bulkier ones from earlier parts. The characters feel more expressive because of it. In fact, that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to watch JoJo's to begin with. But it's no longer an issue. People really underestimate the power of a strong adaptation. Golden Wind is living proof of one. We get great moments like the torture dance, and even something like this. And don't even get me started on the music. As a first-time viewer, I can say Part 5's adaptation was spectacular. Out of all of the parts I've seen so far, this one easily has the best pacing. Every part needs its JoJo, and this time we have Giorno Giovanna. He is one of the more interesting ones to say the least. Right upon introduction, we find out he's the son of Dio. I don't know how that's possible. He's a walking paradox, representing a bridge between Jonathan and Dio's good and bad qualities. Nothing depicts this more than his dream to become a gangster and reform Passione from the inside out. His motivation comes from a quiet, righteous anger. He saw firsthand how the gang was poisoning his city by selling drugs to kids and killing innocent people, giving him a moral clarity that's both compassionate and ruthless in his goal to restore life to Naples. Ironic as it may seem, his stand gold experience does exactly that, breathing life into inanimate things. The very power of creation, in contrast to his father's legacy of destruction. That said, he's one of my least favorite Joestars. Nothing really against him, I just happen to love the others more. He's the first to not feel like the main character and falls to the quiet background, but it feels intentional. And it's interesting Araki wrote him like this. Unlike Joseph, Jotaro, and Josuke, Giorno doesn't go through a traditional arc. He is already fully developed when the story begins. He already knows what he wants and would do whatever to attain it. He's calm, quiet, and observant, aiding as a support and a critical step in developing the characters around him, particularly the gang he's a part of, who I strongly believe to be the best side cast for me. Yes, they've surpassed Part 4's group. Giorno may be the JoJo, but the heart of Golden Wind belongs to someone else. A man named Bruno Bucciarati, the true main character. I love everything there is about him. His backstory, his design, his stand. He quickly became one of my top 5 characters in the entire series. Just like Giorno, he's disgusted by the drug trade rotting his home, and that shared dream is what brings them together. His choice to betray Diavolo after finding out he planned to murder Trish, his own daughter, is the moment the story just explodes. That choice isn't just a rebellion, it's sacrifice. Bucciarati knows exactly what that decision will cost him, and he makes it anyway. Sticky Fingers is a perfect reflection of who he is, a man who opens up new paths for others, whether it's an escape route or a new future. He's the leader who carries the heaviest weight and whose resolve inspires his team to follow him toward a future he knows he'll never be a part of. Fugo, Mista, Abacchio, and Narancia, I don't know how to say his name, all are incredible characters who carry their own trauma and are loyal to a fault. It's seen through one of the more intense moments of this part, where they all decide whether to betray the boss and follow Bucciarati to Sarandia. There's no dramatic speech, just a quiet, terrifying choice. And when Fugo stays behind, it doesn't feel like cowardice. It feels human. It's one of the most realistic moments in the story. It shows that not everyone has the resolve to go on a suicide mission, and that realism only makes the others' bravery feel more earned. And finally, there's Trish, who I thought nothing of at first, other than being a damsel in distress. She quickly grew on me though, once she fought Notorious Big and awakened her stand. Her growth represents exactly what the team is fighting for, protecting the innocent and giving them the strength to seize control of their own fate. She now becomes someone who stands alongside them. They remind me of the Crusaders in a way. What really makes this group special is their bond. They aren't just allies. They're a family built through shared suffering and trust. Every fight, every sacrifice tests their bond, and it's that emotional weight that makes their losses and victories so bittersweet. And once again, the stands have gotten better. I feel like I'm going to say that a lot from here on out. Our main group possesses very unique abilities. Aerosmith, Sex Pistols, and Spice Girl. I definitely get the music reference this time around. I love the stands are no longer just humanoid entities that pummels their opponents to the ground. They can be objects, tools, and even weapons. It's certainly a breath of fresh air. We also get introduced to a new stage of stands, but more on that later. Stand battles have always been a thing in JoJo's for a while, but Golden Wind is where Araki truly perfects his craft. The fights here aren't just about who can punch harder, they're high-stake puzzles that push their characters to their absolute breaking points. Not to mention their enemies are woven directly to the story. The main antagonists hunting the team aren't just random goons, they're a rival assassination squad who end up wanting the same goal as our squad. This gives every fight a personal, desperate feeling. Take the battle on the train against Prosciutto and Pesky, for example, or the fight against Giacio, or even jumping ahead to the fight with Doppio and Risotto later on. The battles in Golden Wind are the peak of Araki's creativity, mixing high-concept powers with brutal tactics and forcing our heroes to win with their brains, not just their fists. As for my favorite of the newer stands, it's going to be Moody Blue's Abacchio stand. The ability itself is simple, but thematically it's perfect. For a man who is trapped by his past due to his mistakes, having a power where you literally replay past events is incredibly fitting. He is able to use this flaw as a power until the very end. I really love how well JoJo tackles death. There's something real about the way Araki sends off his characters. In a lot of shows that I've seen, when a character dies, there's usually a long, dramatic farewell, whether it be through words or actions as they're at death's door. And there's nothing wrong with that. Plenty of stories do it beautifully. When a character dies in JoJo, there's a sense of realism to it. They just die, suddenly, unfairly. It's unpredictable. It creates tension, and you really feel the emotion behind them. Caesar in Part 2, Kakuin in Part 3, and Shigechi in Part 4 are some that come to mind. And Part 5, more than any other, leans heavily into this. It has the highest body count, and it feels like it. Abacchio's death was completely unexpected. The moment where he sees his old partner was a bittersweet final grace. The resentful man is finally at peace. And don't even get me started on Narancha's death. That was so cruel. I mean, the death flags were there, but good lord. There's no final stand, no last words. He just goes. It happens so fast that you barely have time to process it before the story moves on. And that absence hits harder than any final speech ever could. And that idea that death can arrive without meaning or fairness ties directly into Part 5's central theme. Because in Golden Wind, fate isn't something you escape. It's something you're forced to face. However, what happens when you try to change fate? This question is tackled by our first biggest obstacle, the main villain, Diavolo. As far as villains go, he's pretty weak. For a character who is completely shrouded by mystery, his limited screen time makes it harder to fully connect with him. The notion that he wishes to remain anonymous is pretty uninspired, especially coming right after Kira. It's hard not to feel like I've just seen this done before. I will say, I did love the idea of him having a split personality disorder. I don't think we've seen that before in JoJo's. It made for some hilarious moments. And I really liked that Araki made the choice to introduce his stand first before the character itself. That was an interesting twist. Despite that, thematically, he works. He goes against the very themes of this part. He is built on control and fear. King Crimson embodies that well. It's a terrifying power, erasure of time. Actively wanting to control fate perfectly reflects Diavolo as a character. He wants to control without consequence. He wants to erase the parts of reality he doesn't like, while remaining completely untouched himself. And whilst this is a villain with yet another time power, it's consistent with the track record of the JoJo villains wanting to abuse the passage of time, so I'm cool with it. Throughout all of JoJo's, the idea of fighting against fate has been present, but Part 5 makes it the central conflict. It's a story that asks if destiny is a fixed, absolute power and if you can beat it with your resolve. Bucciarati's fight with Diavolo is a perfect example of this. After losing, Bruno loses a lot of blood and basically dies, only to not. It's due to his resolve that his soul is pushing forward, in a body that's slowly shutting down. He is literally a dead man walking, but his existence is an act of pure willpower. Fast forward to the ending, the Rolling Stones episodes, which, while admittedly a random way to end this part, greatly aids this narrative. Bucciarati's fate was sealed once the stone formed into his shape. However, due to Mr.'s resolve, he prevented Bruno from dying early, allowing the others to die first. You could say Mr. was the true villain. With that said, I do think this reveal kinda cheapens the brave choice he made to protect Trish and fight the boss a little, but in exchange, it reframes everything that follows. By choosing to fight anyway, they turn their meaningless deaths into heroic sacrifices. They don't erase their fate, they give it meaning. And in doing so, they prove they were never slaves to fate after all. Let's talk about Part 5's wildcard, Stand Requiems. So we get reintroduced to Polnareff, which was a great surprise, and he brings forth the concept of Requiems. And I don't like the execution of them. Don't get me wrong, stand arrows have been a reoccurring plot device since Part 3, and the idea of stands going berserk sounds incredibly cool. But I just can't help but feel this was shoehorned in at the last possible moment. We hear about it at the very end of the part, weirdly enough, and we get a very streamlined, rushed explanation on what they are. It's very messy, and this is the first miss from Araki. I don't know, I just feel like stands themselves were already perfect, and this felt kind of unnecessary. Like, I get it, it's a shonen series, power-ups are a given, but if this was introduced much earlier on, I could see it having a much more satisfying payoff. But alas, it was worth mentioning as it plays a key factor in the final fight. As Bucciarati passes on the torch to Giorno, as he pierces his stand, unlocking Gold Experience Requiem, which does look cool, we get the final bout with Giorno and Diavolo. Even though the final fight is really just our gangsters with swapped bodies chasing after Polnareff's rogue Requiem for the arrow, the final clash with Diavolo to some may feel underwhelming. I feel it really hammers home to the ongoing theme of fate versus resolve. Giorno's newest power is the perfect counter to King Crimson. It has the power to reset everything to zero, negating his time erasure, reverting every action. This traps its target in an infinite loop where the cause never leads to an effect. Diavolo's King Crimson erases the cause to guarantee the effect, and Gold Experience Requiem erases the effect by cancelling out the cause. That symmetry is beautiful. Diavolo can no longer escape the consequences of fate. I may not love Requiems, but I do love this. Giorno's resolve is sharp, and as he delivers the final blow, as he defeats the boss, he delivers a killer line, "You will never reach the truth," and traps Diavolo in an infinite death loop, forever experiencing death but never reaching the end. And I must say, this is one of the most brutal ways to kill off a villain. Araki gives his villains the most fitting conclusions. What follows after is quite odd. After the climax and the Rolling Stone stuff, we just immediately cut to Giorno becoming a mob boss. We don't see his rise to power or if he achieved his goal. We don't see memorials for our fallen comrades. We don't know what happens to Trish or Fugo. It sticks the landing, but not quite. This is probably the first time watching JoJo's where I'm split on its conclusion. I don't hate it, but I can't say it fully satisfies either. It feels very abrupt. They could have used an extra episode to flesh things out. With that said, Golden Wind was the boldest part I've seen so far. Despite a few familiar faces like Koichi and Polnareff briefly returning, the focus is firmly placed on an entirely new cast, and that choice pays off. And compared to the first 4 parts, where there was a balance between humor and seriousness, Golden Wind has more of a serious tone. It's definitely the most mature part up until this point. It's not flawless by any means, that's for sure. However, it is an explosion of passion poured into every piece of it. One of Araki's biggest strengths as a mangaka is his ability to be flexible and deliver fresh experiences through each part. Not many authors have this ability, therefore he deserves a lot of praise. With only one part left for me to watch before the anime returns with part 7, I am thoroughly excited for what Stone Ocean has in store. So if you're new, please like and subscribe for the 6th and final part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And click this playlist to watch my reviews for parts 1 to 4.